Part 1. First Contact Protocol. Dr. Zara Velthari checked her environmental suit one more time as her landing pod shook through the atmosphere of Kepler 442c. Her four arms moved quickly over the controls, making sure everything was working. She had to be careful. This planet was known across the galaxy as a death world. No one survived here. No one even tried anymore. But the sensors were wrong. They had to be wrong. The readings showed buildings, farms, and what looked like a real settlement. That was impossible. The Council had tried to settle this planet 3 times. Each time, entire colonies disappeared within weeks. The planet ate them alive. The pod hit the ground with a loud crash. Zara's tentacles wrapped around her seat as she waited for the shaking to stop. Outside her small window, she could see red dirt and strange purple trees that seemed to move on their own. Even the plants here were dangerous. She put on her helmet and grabbed her plasma rifle. The weapon was military-grade, designed to stop the biggest predators in the galaxy. On this planet, it might not be enough. Her suit's computer started beeping. Warnings about the air, the radiation, and the movement it detected in the nearby forest. "Stay calm, Zara," she said to herself. "You're a xenobiologist. You've studied this planet for years. You know what to expect." But she didn't expect what she saw when she stepped out of her pod. There was a fire burning about 50 meters away, not a natural fire from lightning or volcanic activity. This was clearly made by someone intelligent. Someone was camping here, on purpose. Zara's suit sensors went crazy as she walked toward the fire. The readings showed massive life forms all around her, but they weren't moving closer. That was strange. The creatures on this planet always attacked anything new. As she got closer to the fire, she could smell something cooking. Meat. Something big was being roasted over the flames on a metal spit. Her suit's analysis showed the meat contained proteins that matched the apex predators in her database. Then she saw him. A human male was sitting on a log next to the fire. He looked completely relaxed, like he was having a picnic in a park instead of camping on the most dangerous planet in known space. He was tall and muscular, with brown hair and dark skin marked by old scars. His clothes were simple, pants and a shirt that looked handmade. No environmental suit, no weapons visible. Just a human sitting by a fire. When he saw Zara approaching, the human smiled and waved like he was greeting an old friend. "Hey there," he called out in standard Galactic, though with a strange accent. "You must be from that ship I saw flying over yesterday. I'm Jake Morrison." Zara stopped walking. Her suit's translator was working perfectly, but she couldn't believe what she was hearing. This human was talking like meeting an alien on a death world was the most normal thing in the universe. I am Dr. Zara Velthari of the Galactic Council Scientific Division," she managed to say through her suit's external speakers. Are you stranded here? Do you need rescue?" Jake laughed, a warm sound that seemed completely out of place on this deadly planet. "Stranded? No, nothing like that. I live here. We all do." He gestured toward something behind Zara. She turned around and nearly fell over. In the distance, she could see buildings. Real buildings made of what looked like bone and hide. There were fields of crops growing in neat rows. She could see movement, more humans working in the fields, children playing, smoke coming from chimneys. "That's impossible," Zara whispered. "What's impossible?" Jake asked. He was poking at the fire with a long stick, turning the meat. "Oh, you mean living here? It's not so bad once you learn the tricks. Took us about 6 months to really figure things out, but now it's pretty comfortable." Zara's mind was racing. Her suit's long-range sensors were confirming what she saw. There were at least 50 human life signs in the settlement. They had been here for... how long? "How long have you been on this planet?" she asked. "Me, personally? About 3 years now. I was part of the second wave of settlers. The first group arrived about 4 years ago." 4 years? Zara's voice came out as a squeak. You've been here for 4 years? Yeah, time flies when you're having fun, Jake said with another grin. He stood up and walked over to something covered by a large tarp. You hungry? This shadow maw's been cooking for about 6 hours now. Should be perfect. He pulled away the tarp, and Zara saw something that made her legs nearly give out. Lying on the ground was the partial carcass of a shadow maw. A real shadow maw. The creature was easily 8 meters long and covered in black scales that could stop plasma blasts. Its claws were each as long as Zara's arm. Its head alone was bigger than her entire body. Shadow maws were apex predators. Council military forces used heavy artillery and full squads just to drive them away. They didn't hunt them. No one hunted them, but this one was very clearly dead, and it was very clearly being prepared as food. You killed a shadow maw? Zara asked, her voice barely working. This old guy? Jake patted the creature's massive head like it was a pet. Yeah, he was causing problems for our crops, kept eating our livestock. Had to take him down yesterday morning. Your livestock? Sure. We've got about 200 razorbacks now, 50 or so spike-tails, and we're trying to domesticate some of the smaller night crawlers. Takes patience. But they're actually pretty smart once you get to know them. Zara knew those names. Razorbacks were pack hunters with poisonous spines. Spike-tails could bite through starship hull plating. Night crawlers hunted in the dark and could see through most camouflage systems. This human was talking about them like they were farm animals. How? She asked. It was the only word she could manage. Jake seemed to understand what she meant. Well, you study them first. Learn their habits, what they eat, how they hunt, what scares them. Then you figure out their weak spots. Every predator has weak spots, you know. After that, it's just a matter of having the right tools and enough patience. He walked over to a wooden rack near the fire where several weapons were hanging. They were clearly human-made, but Zara had never seen designs like these. They looked primitive compared to plasma weapons, but something about them seemed purpose-built and deadly. This is my Shadow Maw rifle, Jake said, picking up a long weapon with a massive barrel. Took me 8 months to design and build it. Fires a steel spike with explosive tip. Has to punch through those scales, see? Regular bullets just bounce off. Zara stared at the weapon. It was huge, clearly designed for taking down something much larger than the person using it. The thought of a human going up against a shadow maw with this weapon was insane, but the evidence was right in front of her. Would you like to stay for dinner? Jake asked, going back to tend the fire. It'll be ready in about an hour. I've got some vegetables too, hybrid crops we developed using local plants. They're actually pretty, tasty once you get used to them. Zara looked around at the impossible scene. The human settlement in the distance. The dead apex predator being prepared as a meal. The relaxed human treating her like a neighbor who had stopped by to visit. I need to contact my ship, she said, weakly. Sure, no problem, Jake said. Though you might want to wait until after dark. That's when things get really interesting around here. The night shift is about to start hunting. Night shift. Jake grinned, showing white teeth. The really big stuff comes out after dark. Makes for good hunting if you know what you're doing. We've got a group going out tonight to track a thornback pack. You're welcome to come watch if you want. Just stay close and do exactly what we tell you. Zara felt her worldview beginning to crack. This human was inviting her to watch them hunt creatures that could destroy a council warship. And he was talking about it like it was entertainment. She activated her suit's communication system and sent an emergency message to her ship. Need immediate xenopsychology consultation. Humans displaying impossible behavior patterns. Require extended observation mission. Jake was humming quietly as he rotated the spit, completely at peace in the middle of the most dangerous place in known space. The smell of cooking shadow maw filled the air, and in the distance, Zara could hear human voices laughing and calling to each other. Everything she thought she knew about the universe had just changed. Part 2. Impossible. Homestead. 3 hours later, Zara was walking through the human settlement with her mouth hanging open inside her helmet. Nothing she was seeing should have been possible. Nothing. Jake walked beside her like a tour guide, pointing out different buildings and explaining how they worked. "That's our main workshop," he said, gesturing to a large structure made from what looked like giant rib bones. "We make all our tools and weapons there. And that building next to it? That's where we process the meat and hides." Zara stopped walking when she saw a group of human children playing in a fenced yard. They looked normal enough, laughing, running around, having fun. But what they were playing with made her blood freeze. "Are those children playing with razorback cubs?" she asked, her voice shaking. Jake looked over and smiled. "Yeah, those are Bessie's babies. Born about 2 months ago. The kids love them." Zara watched as a human girl who couldn't have been more than 10 years old was scratching behind the ears of a creature that would grow up to hunt in packs and kill things twice its size. The razorback cub was making happy noises and wagging its tail like a dog. "How is this possible?" Zara whispered. "Same way humans domesticated wolves back on Earth," Jake explained. "You start when they're young, treat them right, make sure they know you're part of their pack. Takes a few generations, but it works. These cubs will never attack humans. Their kids probably won't even remember that their species used to be wild." They kept walking through the settlement. Jake showed her the crop fields where humans had somehow crossed Earth vegetables with local carnivorous plants. The result was plants that could defend themselves from being eaten by the local wildlife while still producing food for humans. "Watch this," Jake said, picking up a small rock. He threw it at one of the plants, and immediately the entire plant twisted around and caught the rock in its leaves. Sharp teeth snapped at where the rock had been. "The plants protect the whole field," Jake explained. "Nothing can get to our crops without going through them first. Pretty neat, right?" Zara made notes on her tablet with shaking hands. Every single thing she was seeing violated basic principles of ecology, biology, and common sense. But it was all real. Her sensors confirmed everything. They walked past a building where she could hear the sound of metal being worked. Through the open doorway, she saw humans making weapons and tools from bones, scales, and other parts of the local predators. Everything was being used. Nothing was wasted. "That's Maria's workshop," Jake said. "She's our best weapon designer. Used to be an engineer back on Earth before she decided she wanted more excitement in her life." "More excitement?" Zara asked. "What kind of person comes to a death world looking for excitement?" Jake shrugged. "The kind of person who gets bored easily, I guess. Maria designed the Thornback Spear and the Nightcrawler net system. We probably wouldn't have survived the first year without her designs." They stopped at a large building in the center of the settlement. It was clearly the community center, built from the bones of something absolutely massive. Zara didn't recognize the bone structure from any creature in her database. "What kind of creature did this come from?" she asked, pointing at the building. "Tunnel worm," Jake said casually. "Took down a small one about 2 years ago, only about 200 meters long. We used everything: bones for building, hide for leather, meat for food for 6 months. The big ones can be over 1 kilometer long, but we haven't tried hunting one of those yet." "Yet?" Zara's voice squeaked. "Well, we're still learning. Got to work our way up to the really big stuff. No point in being stupid about it." Inside the community center, Zara met more of the human settlers. There was Dr. Sarah Chen, who had been a university professor before becoming what she called a xenobiology specialist. There was Marcus Thompson, who used to work in an office and now spent his days tracking shadow moths. There was Elena Rodriguez, who had given up being a chef to learn how to cook alien predators. All of them talked about their previous lives like they had been boring. All of them seemed genuinely happy to be here, on this nightmare planet, surrounded by creatures that could kill them at any moment. "But why?" Zara finally asked during dinner. The humans had insisted she try some of the shadow maw meat, and she had to admit it was delicious. "Why would you leave comfortable lives to come to a place like this?" The humans looked at each other and smiled. Sarah Chen answered first. Back on Earth, I spent 40 years studying alien life forms through computer simulations and old sample data. Here I get to study them up close. I've learned more in the past 3 years than I did in 4 decades of university research. Marcus nodded. I used to sit in a cubicle all day, every day. Same routine, same boring tasks. Here, every day is different. Every day is a challenge. I wake up excited to see what's going to happen. Plus, Elena added with a grin, the cooking. Here is incredible. Do you have any idea how many new flavors you can discover when you're working with entirely new types of meat? It's a chef's dream. Zara couldn't understand it. These humans had given up safety and comfort to come to a place where death was always just one mistake away, and they were happy about it. As the sun started to set, the mood in the room changed. The humans began checking their weapons and putting on armor made from the hides and scales of local predators. Jake stood up and addressed the group. All right, people. Tonight we're tracking the thornback pack that's been hitting our southern perimeter. Maria's got new spear tips that should punch through their armor. Marcus found their den yesterday, so we know where to find them. How many are we talking about? Asked a human woman whose arms were covered in scars. Pack of 12, Marcus replied. 3 adults, the rest are juveniles. Should be a good fight without being too dangerous. Zara nearly choked on her food. Thornbacks were armored predators the size of tanks. Their spines could punch holes through starship hulls. A pack of 12 would be considered a serious threat to a council military base. These humans were talking about hunting them for fun. You're welcome to come watch, Jake said to Zara. Just stay behind the safety line and do exactly what we tell you. We've never lost the observer, and we don't plan to start now. Zara's scientific curiosity warred with her survival instincts. She should stay in the settlement where it was safe. She should call for evacuation immediately. She should report this impossible situation to the council and let them figure out what to do. But she had to see this. She had to understand how. These humans were doing the impossible. I'll come, she said, her voice barely a whisper. Jake grinned. Great. Sarah, get her one of the spare helmets with night vision, and someone find her a backup weapon just in case. Just in case what? Zara asked. In case something goes wrong and you need to defend yourself, Jake said like it was obvious. Don't worry, though. Probably won't need it. We're pretty good at this by now. As the humans finished their preparations, Zara sat in stunned silence. She was about to go hunting with a group of humans who thought taking on armored predators the size of tanks was a normal evening activity. Her suit's communication system chimed with a message from her ship. Dr. Velthari, please report your status immediately. Your last transmission indicated emergency conditions. Zara looked around at the humans laughing and joking as they prepared their weapons. Jake was showing a teenager how to properly balance a spear designed to kill creatures that could destroy buildings. She typed back, status unclear. Require extended observation time. Will report findings when I understand what I'm seeing. Because right now she didn't understand anything at all. Part 3. The Apex Predator's Predator. The night hunt changed everything. Zara thought she knew about predators and prey. She watched from behind a rock barrier as 12 humans moved through the darkness like ghosts. They had given her night vision. Goggles, and through them she could see the thornback pack in the distance. The creatures were massive, each one the size of a small building, covered in armor plates that glowed faintly in the darkness. Jake spoke quietly into his radio headset. Marcus, you see the big female on the left? Got her, Marcus whispered back from somewhere in the darkness. She's the pack leader. Take her down first, the others will scatter. Sarah, are you in position with the net launchers? Ready when you are, came Sarah's voice. Elena's got the backup spears if we need them. Zara couldn't believe what she was hearing. These humans were talking about the Thornbacks like they were planning a business meeting. No fear, no panic, just calm professional discussion about how to kill creatures that could destroy tanks. The attack came so fast that Zara almost missed it. One moment the thornbacks were grazing peacefully. The next moment, the humans struck from 6 different directions at once. Marcus fired something that looked like a rocket launcher, but instead of exploding, it released a massive net made of metal cables. The net wrapped around the pack leader's legs and brought her crashing to the ground. At the same moment, 3 other humans fired spears from weapons that looked like small cannons. The spears punched through the thornback's armor like it was paper. The other thornbacks turned to attack. But the humans were already moving. They scattered in different directions, making it impossible for the pack to focus on any one target. More nets flew through the air. More spears found their marks. "Zara, stay down!" Jake shouted as one of the smaller thornbacks broke away from the pack and charged toward her hiding spot. She pressed herself against the rock as the creature thundered past, chasing a human who was leading it away from the group. The human was running in a zigzag pattern, staying just ahead of the thornback's snapping jaws. As they passed a cluster of trees, 3 more humans dropped from the branches onto the creature's back. They drove spears down between its armor plates with surgical precision. The entire hunt lasted less than 10 minutes. When it was over, 12 thornbacks lay dead, and not a single human had been seriously injured. Jake walked over to where Zara was still pressed against the rock. "You okay? That was a pretty good hunt. Usually takes us longer than that." Zara couldn't speak. She had just watched humans casually take down creatures that the Council considered unstoppable, and they had done it with weapons that looked primitive compared to plasma cannons and laser rifles. "How?" she finally managed to ask. Jake helped her stand up. "Same way humans have always hunted. We study the prey, we learn their weaknesses, we plan our attack, and we work together. It's not rocket science." Over the next few days, Zara threw herself into studying the humans' methods. She followed their hunting parties, watched their training sessions, and interviewed every settler she could find. What she discovered made her question everything she thought she knew about survival and evolution. The humans had detailed files on every creature on the planet. They knew what each predator ate, when they hunted, how they mated, where they slept, and most importantly, how to kill them efficiently. They had turned predator study into a science. "Look at this," Sarah Chen said, showing Zara a thick notebook, filled with drawings and notes. "This is everything we know about shadow maws. Their armor is strongest on the front and top, but there's a gap between the scales right behind the front legs. Hit them there with enough force and you can reach the heart." "But how did you learn this?" Zara asked. "How did you get close enough to study them without being killed?" Sarah smiled. "Very carefully, and we lost a few people in the early days. But once you understand that every creature, no matter how dangerous, is just following patterns, you can predict what they'll do." Marcus showed her the tracking equipment they had built. Simple motion sensors, scent detectors, and cameras that could survive in the planet's harsh environment. "We always know where the big predators are," he explained. "Knowledge is the best weapon." Elena took her to the food preparation areas and explained how they had learned to process every part of each creature they killed. "Nothing gets wasted," she said. "Shadow Maw hide makes excellent armor. Their bones can be turned into weapons or building materials. Even their blood has uses. It makes great fertilizer for our crops." But it wasn't just about hunting. Zara watched humans training their children to recognize dangerous plants, to move quietly through the forest, and to work as a team in dangerous situations. Every human in the settlement, from the smallest child to the oldest adult, was part of their survival system. "We're not just living here," Jake explained one evening as they sat around the campfire. "We're becoming part of this planet's ecosystem, but instead of being prey, we've made ourselves the apex predators." "But you're not the strongest creatures here," Zara protested. "There are things on this planet that could kill you easily." "Individually, maybe," Jake agreed. "But we don't hunt individually. We hunt as a species, and our species' greatest strength isn't our muscles or our armor, it's our brains." That's when the ground started shaking. At first, Zara thought it was an earthquake, but the shaking was rhythmic, like giant footsteps. The humans around the fire stopped talking and looked at each other with expressions she had never seen before. For the first time since she had arrived, the humans looked worried. "What is that?" Zara asked. Jake stood up slowly, his hand moving to his weapon. "That's something we haven't seen before. Something big. Really big." Marcus came running from the watchtower. "Jake! You need to see this! The sensors are going crazy! There's something huge moving underground, heading straight for us!" "How huge?" Jake asked. "The readings don't make sense. It's at least 1 kilometer long, maybe longer. And it's coming. Up from deep underground." Jake's face went pale. "Devour Worm." The name sent a chill through everyone around the fire. Even Zara knew about Devour Worms from Council records. They were legendary creatures that had destroyed entire colonies. Planet killers. Things so dangerous that the Council had marked any world with confirmed Devour Worm activity as permanently uninhabitable. "I thought they were extinct on this planet," Sarah said, her voice shaking. "So did we," Jake replied grimly. "Guess we were wrong." The ground shook again, harder this time. In the distance, Zara could see trees falling as something massive moved beneath the earth. The creature was heading straight for the human settlement. Jake activated his radio and spoke to the entire settlement. "All hands, this is not a drill. We have a Devour Worm approaching from the southeast. Everyone to emergency positions. Get the children to the deep bunkers. Break out the heavy weapons." "Jake," Marcus said quietly, "the heavy weapons might not be enough for something this size." Jake looked around at his people as they ran to their emergency positions. Humans were grabbing weapons, herding children to safety, and preparing defenses with military precision. But Zara could see the fear in their eyes. This was bigger than anything they had faced before. "Maybe not," Jake said, "but we're not running. This is our home now." He turned to Zara. "You should get to your ship. Get off-world while you still can." Zara looked at the humans preparing to face down a creature that could destroy cities. They were scared, but they weren't backing down. They were going to fight something that had ended 3 separate colonial attempts by advanced civilizations. "My ship is 3 hours away," she said. "I wouldn't make it in time." Jake nodded grimly. "Then I guess you're with us. Sarah, get her one of the backup rifles. If we're doing this, we're all doing this together." The ground shook again, and this time it didn't stop. Whatever was coming was almost here. Zara had come to this planet to study an impossible situation. Now she was about to become part of one. Part 4. The Hunt That Shook the Galaxy. The Devour Worm erupted from the ground like a mountain coming to life. Zara had seen the Council records, but nothing had prepared her for the reality. The creature was over 1 kilometer long and as wide as a starship. Its body was covered in armor plates that looked like they could stop plasma cannons. Rows of teeth, each one the size of a tree, lined its massive mouth. When it roared, the sound shattered windows in the human settlement. "Holy shit," Jake whispered, staring up at the monster towering above them. "That thing is bigger than the report said." The Devour Worm's head swayed back and forth, scanning the settlement below. Its eyes, each one the size of a house, focused on the humans running for cover. Then it began to descend, its massive mouth opening to swallow buildings whole, all. "Teams, open fire!" Jake shouted into his radio. The humans unleashed everything they had. Heavy rifles fired explosive rounds that bounced off the creature's armor like raindrops. Rocket launchers sent missiles that exploded harmlessly against its scales. Even their biggest weapons seemed like toys compared to the massive predator. "It's not working!" Marcus yelled from his position behind a barricade. "The armor is too thick!" The Devour Worm's head smashed into the workshop building, crushing it like paper. The creature began eating the wreckage, metal and all. It was clear that the monster could consume the entire settlement without even trying. "Fall back to position 2, Jake ordered. "Use the bait strategy." Zara watched in amazement as the humans executed a fighting retreat. They weren't running in panic. They were moving according to a plan. Groups of fighters took turns drawing the creature's attention while others moved to new positions. They were treating this nightmare scenario like a military operation. But it wasn't working. The Devour Worm was too big, too armored, and too powerful. For every shot that hit it, the creature destroyed another building. That's when Sarah Chen's voice came over the radio with excitement. "Jake! I've got something! The creature's sensory organs! They're not protected by armor!" "What do you mean?" Jake asked, ducking as the Devour Worm's tail smashed through a wall near his position. "Look at the sides of its head!" Sarah shouted. "Those gray patches, they're not armor, they're nerve clusters. If we can hit those, we might be able to blind it or confuse it." Zara looked where Sarah was pointing. She was right. The gray patches were different from the rest of the creature's armor. In her xenobiology training, she had studied similar organs in other species. They were sensory processors, the creature's way of detecting heat, movement, and chemical signals. "I can hit those," Marcus called out, "but I need a clear shot." "We'll give you one," Jake replied. "All teams, concentrate fire on the head. Make it look at us." The humans changed their strategy instantly. Instead of trying to damage the creature, they focused on getting its attention. They fired flares, set off explosions, and made as much noise as possible. The Devour Worm turned toward the main group of fighters, exposing its sensory organs. Marcus fired his modified rifle, sending a high-powered explosive round directly into one of the gray patches. The effect was immediate and dramatic. The Devour Worm screamed in pain and thrashed wildly, smashing into trees and rocks. One of its massive eyes was clearly damaged. "It worked!" Sarah yelled. "Hit the other ones!" But the creature had learned. It pulled its head back and began attacking with its tail instead, keeping its sensory organs away from the human weapons. The massive tail swept through the settlement like a bulldozer, destroying everything in its path. "We need to get closer!" Jake shouted. "Elena, take your team around to the left. Marcus, go right." "We'll keep it distracted from the front. That's suicide," Elena protested. "If we get that close, one hit will kill us all." "If we don't get close, it'll kill us anyway," Jake replied. "This is our only shot." Zara watched the humans split into 3 groups and charged toward the massive creature. They were running directly toward something that could step on them without noticing. It was the bravest and most insane thing she had ever seen. The Devour Worm noticed the humans approaching and lowered its head to attack them directly. Its mouth opened wide enough to swallow a building, and it dove toward Jake's group. That's when Zara realized something. In all her xenobiology training, she had studied the sensory systems of massive predators. The Devour Worm's head movements weren't random. They were following patterns based on what it could sense. And there was something the humans didn't know. "Jake!" she screamed into her radio. "The creature has a blind spot, directly underneath its head. It can't see you there." "Are you sure?" Jake asked, still running toward the creature's massive mouth. "Yes. The sensory organs point outward and up. There's a dead zone right below its chin." Jake didn't hesitate. "All teams converge on the blind spot, under the head." The 3 human groups changed direction and ran directly underneath the Devour Worm's massive head. The creature tried to look down at them, but Zara was right. Its own anatomy prevented it from seeing directly below. "Now what?" Marcus asked, breathing hard as he pressed himself against the creature's throat. "Now we climb," Jake said grimly. "Everyone, use your climbing gear. We're going up." Zara watched in disbelief as the humans began climbing the Devour Worm like it was a mountain. They used magnetic clamps, ropes, and climbing spikes to work their way up the creature's neck toward its head. The Devour Worm thrashed and twisted, trying to shake them off, but the humans held on. "This is insane," Zara said into her radio. "You can't climb a kilometer-tall creature." "Watch us," Jake replied through gritted teeth. It took them an hour to reach the creature's head. By then, several humans had fallen and been caught by safety ropes. Others had been injured by the creature's violent movements. But they kept climbing. When they finally reached the sensory organs, the humans went to work with surgical precision. They placed explosive charges directly into the gray patches that Sarah had identified. The devour worm tried to shake them off, but it was too late. "Fire in the hole!" Jake shouted. The explosions tore through the creature's sensory system like lightning. The devour worm screamed so loudly that Zara's helmet speakers overloaded. The massive creature thrashed wildly, smashing into the ground and rolling over. But it was blind now, and confused. It couldn't tell where the humans were. "Phase 2, Jake ordered. "Everyone target the joints between armor plates." Now that the creature couldn't see them properly, the humans could attack its weak points. They rappelled down ropes to reach the gaps in its armor and placed shaped charges in the joints. Each explosion weakened the creature's ability to move. The battle lasted 18 hours. The humans took shifts, with some teams attacking while others rested and treated their injuries. They fought with a combination of courage, intelligence, and pure stubbornness that Zara had never seen in any species. When the devour worm finally collapsed and stopped moving, the humans didn't celebrate. They immediately began planning how to process the massive carcass. "This thing will feed us for years," Elena said, looking up at the enormous corpse. "And the materials we can get from it. We could build a whole new section of the settlement." Jake walked over to where Zara was sitting, exhausted and amazed. Her rifle was in her hands. At some point during the battle, she had started shooting at the creature too. She couldn't remember when. "That was incredible," she said quietly. "You actually killed it. You killed a devour worm." Jake smiled tiredly. "We killed it. You spotted the sensory organs first. Without that, we never would have won." Zara looked around at the humans treating their wounded and surveying the damage to their settlement. They had just defeated something that had destroyed 3 civilizations, and they were already talking about rebuilding. "How do you do it?" she asked. "How do you face something like that and not run away?" Jake sat down beside her. "Because running away means giving up our home, and humans don't give up their homes easily." In the distance, Zara could see human children coming out of the bunkers and staring up at the massive dead creature in wonder. They weren't scared. They were excited. She realized that she had just witnessed the birth of a legend. The day humans proved that nothing in the galaxy was too big to hunt. Part 5. The New Apex Species. 6 months after the Devour Worm hunt, Zara stood in the council chambers on Zarion Prime, facing the most powerful beings in the galaxy. Her report had caused chaos in every government from here to the Outer Rim. Today she would deliver her final conclusions. "Honored council members," she began, her voice steady despite the importance of the moment. "I have completed my extended study of human colonial behavior on Kepler 442c. My findings will require us to completely change how we classify both the planet and the human species." The council leader, a massive Zentaurian with 4 arms and crystalline skin, leaned forward. "Dr. Velthari, your preliminary reports have been difficult to believe. Are you certain of your findings?" "Completely certain," Zara replied. "I have video evidence, biological samples, and 6 months of detailed observations. Everything in my report has been verified multiple times." She activated the holographic display behind her. Images of the human settlement appeared, showing thriving farms, domesticated predators, and buildings made from creature bones and hides. "Kepler 442c is no longer a death world," she announced. "It is humanity's newest agricultural colony. They are currently exporting processed meats and biological materials to 17 different systems." Gasps echoed through the chamber. Counselor Thrix, an elderly Zephyrian with tentacle-like appendages, spoke up. "That's impossible. 3 separate colonization attempts failed on that planet. Entire populations were wiped out." "Yes," Zara agreed. "But those were traditional colonization attempts. The humans didn't try to fight the planet's ecosystem. They became part of it. More importantly, they became the top of it. She changed the display to show footage of the devour worm hunt. The council members watched in stunned silence as humans climbed a kilometer-long creature and systematically destroyed its sensory organs. This creature, Zara explained, was responsible for destroying the hegemony's third colonization attempt in 2387. The humans killed it in 18 hours and used its body to expand their settlement. Counselor Vex, a tall humanoid with metallic skin, shook his head. Even if this footage is real, one success doesn't prove anything. It could have been luck. Zara smiled. Over the past 6 months, she had heard that argument many times. Counselor Vex, let me show you what the humans have accomplished since the Devour Worm Hunt. The display changed to show aerial views of the expanded settlement. Where there had once been 50 buildings, there were now over 200. Vast farms stretched into the distance. Herds of domesticated creatures grazed in fenced fields. The human population has grown to over 300, Zara reported. They have established 6 satellite settlements across the planet. They have domesticated or eliminated every major predator species in their region. Most importantly, they have created a sustainable ecosystem where they are the apex predators. She paused and looked around the chamber. But that's not the most significant finding. What could be more significant than this? Asked the council leader. The fact that this isn't unique, Zara said. In the past 6 months, I have received reports of similar human activities on 12 other death worlds. In every case, the pattern is the same. Humans don't colonize despite the dangers. They colonize because of them. The chamber erupted. In surprised voices, Zara waited for quiet before continuing. Let me read you some excerpts from recent reports. Vortex Prime. Human settlers have successfully domesticated the storm predators that destroyed our mining operation. Hellscape Delta. Human agricultural output has exceeded pre-infestation levels despite the presence of acid-spitting megafauna. Nightmare Station. Human population continues to grow while hunting the shadow creatures that forced evacuation of 3 military bases. She looked directly at the council leader. Honored council, we need to face the truth. Death worlds aren't humanity's greatest challenge. They're humanity's greatest opportunity. The council leader was quiet for a long moment. Dr. Velthari, what are you recommending? Complete reclassification, Zara said firmly. First, remove the Death World designation from any planet with confirmed human settlements. Second, reclassify humanity from emerging species to apex species. Third, establish new protocols for interspecies cooperation based on human colonial methods. You want us to change fundamental council policies based on one species? Counselor Thrix asked. Based on results, Zara corrected. Let me share some economic data with you. The display showed shipping records and trade agreements. Human agricultural exports from death worlds are now supplying food to over 40 systems. Their biological materials are being used in medical, research, construction, and weapons manufacturing. In 6 months, human death world colonies have generated more economic activity than some entire sectors. She pulled up another chart. More importantly, they're sharing their knowledge. Human, agricultural techniques are being adapted for use on standard colony worlds with remarkable success. Crop yields are up an average of 30% on planets using human crossbreeding methods. Counselor Vex leaned back in his chair. Are you saying humans are better colonists than species with thousands of years of experience? I'm saying humans approach colonization differently, Zara replied. Most species try to change hostile environments to suit their needs. Humans change themselves to suit the environment. Then they change the environment to suit everyone. She switched to video footage of her last day on Kepler 442c. Jake Morrison was showing a group of newly arrived colonists how to hunt razorbacks. Children were playing with domesticated predator cubs. Elena Rodriguez was teaching alien visitors how to cook shadow maw steaks. But perhaps most importantly, Zara continued, humans don't see impossible situations as barriers. They see them as puzzles to solve. Every problem is just a challenge that requires the right approach. The council leader studied the images carefully. Dr. Velthari, you were on that planet for 6 months. Do you believe the humans will be able to maintain this success long-term? Zara thought about her time with the human settlers. She remembered Jake's calm confidence during the Devour Worm hunt. She remembered Sarah's excitement at discovering new predator behaviors. She remembered Elena's joy at creating new recipes from alien ingredients. Honored council leader, she said, I believe the humans are just getting started. They've only been on that planet for 4 years, and they've already achieved what we thought was impossible. Give them 50 years, and I predict Kepler 442c will be one of the most productive agricultural worlds in the galaxy. And you base this prediction on what? On something I learned during my time there, Zara said. Humans have a saying, home is where you make it. They don't wait for perfect conditions. They create them. The council leader stood up. Dr. Velthari, thank you for your report. The council will consider your recommendations. As the session ended, Zara gathered her materials and prepared to leave. But Councillor Thrix approached her before she could go. Dr. Velthari, the elderly Zephyrian said quietly, off the record, what do you really think about humans? Zara considered the question carefully. Counselor, I think we've been asking the wrong question. We've been wondering if humans can survive in the galaxy. We should have been wondering if the galaxy can survive humans. What do you mean? They don't just adapt to new environments, Zara explained. They improve them. Every place they settle becomes more productive, more livable, more connected to the galactic community. They're not just colonists, they're catalysts. 3 days later, Zara received a message from Jake Morrison. The human settlement had just welcomed its first alien permanent residents, a family of Zentaurian refugees who had been displaced by a mining disaster. Jake's message was simple. Come visit any time. Elena's working on a fusion menu of human and Zentaurian cuisine. It's pretty amazing. Zara smiled as she read the message. In her final report to the council, she had written, Recommendation: immediate reclassification of humanity from emerging species to apex species. Reason: they don't adapt to hostile environments, they make hostile environments adapt to them. But sitting in her office, thinking about Jake's invitation, she realized there was something even more important that she had discovered. Humans didn't just conquer death worlds, they turned them into homes, and then they invited everyone else to join them. The galaxy would never be the same.